Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. We have been talking about Unit 5, Technology and Gender Inequality. That is the theme of our unit. We have discussed the first lesson, which was about technology, reading section 5.1, right? I hope you remember that. We are discussing these days gender inequality is detrimental to society. It is reading section 5.2 of the same unit. We have started the text yesterday, and we have talked about gender inequality, how it is detrimental, and at the same time, if you remember during the lecture, I mentioned, the parts of an essay where we have introduction, we have body paragraphs, and then we have conclusion. And I told you in introduction that we have a statement which we call thesis statement, which is one of the most important thing in your whole essay, and specifically it is the most important part of your introduction, right? So in reading section 5.2, I told you yesterday that in the first paragraph there is a thesis statement. I mentioned it, and we have talked about it, that what basically thesis statement means, right? And today we will talk about the body paragraphs also and conclusion. How are you going to conclude an essay then, right? We have certain text, and when you read them, you will feel a gap that they abruptly ended, and there is no proper ending to that text or essay or any piece of text. This is really important, specifically in essay writing, that you should have a proper introduction, then you have body paragraphs, you will develop your arguments there, and then later on at the end you should have a concluding paragraph. And this is understood. Remember that the first paragraph of every essay is the introduction, and the last will always be the conclusion. We don't name them. For example, we don't give the headings specifically that this is the introduction. We don't give headings that, for example, this is body paragraph number 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, and then this is the conclusion. We don't do that, right? Normally, when we have an essay or any piece of text, we mean to say that there is an introduction, there is a body, there are body paragraphs, and there is a proper conclusion to that essay. Now, if you remember, yesterday we have started reading the text. We are on page 194 in your book. Kindly open your books on page 194. I have talked about the first two paragraphs. In the first paragraph, that is the introduction, the thesis statement that we discussed. Look at sentence number 3rd. They have been kept deprived of enough education, health facilities, and nutrition. And then we have the thesis statement. This is the thesis statement. They have been kept deprived of enough education. It means throughout the essay, the writer will talk about education, how women are deprived of education, then health facilities, in what manner he will come up with statistical data, and then nutrition, right? So yesterday we talked about education, how women are deprived of education. Basically we are talking about the body paragraphs now. What we do in body paragraph, that the thing that we have mentioned in our thesis statement, all those things that were mentioned in the first paragraph in the thesis statement, we discuss them in detail, one after the other in body paragraph. So yesterday we talked about the education, how women are deprived of education, what is the ratio, literacy rate, etc. How many schools do we have for women and how many schools do we have for boys. Now look at the last two lines on page 194. In Pakistan, overall general health conditions are not satisfactory, but women suffer more than the other members of society. That is true. The health condition in our country is not that good. But having a bad situation in our country regarding health, women suffer more than men. And that is true. Their worst situation is observed during maternity period. Specifically when they are pregnant with their child, that is the situation, that is the time, that is the period where they suffer a lot, where they face so many issues and problems. As hospitals and doctors are not available in remote areas, so most of the women lose their lives during childbirth. They have already mentioned in the previous paragraph when we were talking about education that we have very a low number of schools for women in rural areas. Same goes for hospitals. We don't have enough doctors and hospitals in rural areas, and specifically regarding childbirth issues. So most of the women, they used to lose their lives during childbirth because there are no maternity homes, there are no hospitals, there are no doctors, there are no lady health workers, etc. So that they can carry out the delivery, in a possible way, so that they can save the life of the mother and the child. But mostly our women used to lose their lives because of this issue, that we have not enough doctors and hospitals. Due to this reason, maternal and infant mortality rate is much high. This is the reason that we have maternal mortality rate is quite high. It means that more female are dying and more infant childs are dying as compared to the other countries of the world. In Pakistan, we have higher mortality rate. It has been observed and surveyed that mortality rate of mothers during childbirth is more than 30 out of 1,000 in Pakistan, which is a matter of great concern. He is now giving you statistical data, and he is telling you that in Pakistan, for example, if we are going to have 1,000 births today all over the Pakistan, 30 deaths will occur during these deliveries. It means that either the mother or the infant, the kid or the child, one of them will die during these 1,000 deliveries, right? Which is quite high, and it's a matter of great concern. In rural areas, it is twice of this number because of the non-availability of qualified healthcare staff, that is midwives and lady health visitors. And this situation is more worst in rural areas, in countryside, in villages, because the number that I gave you, 30 out of 1,000, that is basically, it has been taken, for example, from the hospitals like KTH or Lady Reading Hospital, etc. Or HMC, etc. This data is being taken from these hospitals, which means these are city hospitals. Just imagine about the rural areas, the villages, where most of the cases are not even reported, right? So this mortality rate is almost double, like 60 to 70 fatalities that used to happen in villages. Besides, the male members of the family do not want to take their women to the male doctors, and there is one of the most we can say the core issue is that mostly people do not take their women to male doctors. For example, if somebody's wife is going to have a baby and she is having this the labor issue, they don't normally take their wives to the male doctor, and they actually avoid going to the hospitals because they come up with an excuse that we don't have lady doctors there in that hospitals. That is why I'm not going to take my daughter or my sister or my wife to the hospital. The poor ailing women die by inches due to the sheer negligence of the male members. And most of the times, women used to die just because of this complete negligence of male members of the family. I do not agree to all of these comments. The condition and situation is much better these days, but that is what the writer says. This sort of gender inequality indicates that women are not treated fairly as they deserve. Of course, this type of treatment with women, it is a clear indication that we are not treating our women in a way that they should be treated. If women are paid weak and frail, it is obvious that their offsprings will also be thin, weak, and unhealthy. A healthy woman can give birth to a healthy child, right? This is what we can say, this is understood. So if the woman or the mother is not healthy, definitely she cannot give birth to a healthy child. Weak and unhealthy people cannot contribute much to the progress and prosperity of a country. And in the same way, if we have sick people, if we do not have a good amount of healthy population, specifically healthy young population, definitely they cannot contribute to the progress and prosperity of a country. Right? I hope you understood this paragraph. I'm going to end the lecture here. Inshallah, I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.